Hey, you're talking to Cemanthe McKenzie at the Successful Mentalist podcast.
Hello, and welcome, and thank you for tuning in. And more importantly, Cemanthe, thank you so much for being here. I think this is going to be a really interesting episode for all of you guys listening right now. And of course, the people in the live audience, including Cindy that's just joined us, because today we are not speaking to a mind reader, we are not speaking to a magician, we are not speaking to a world-leading psychologist or anyone talking about neurobiology. Instead, we're talking about someone who actually works at events the same as me and Aidan, but from a very different angle. Cemanthe, Welcome to the Successful Mentalist podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I was just going to say, in your intro, how do you know I'm not a magician?
Mind reader. It's a gift, you see. I know these things. But no, I was wondering, for the people that might not have heard of you, say if you've got someone who's never heard of you before, or there's a magician listening to this right now, the other side of the world, who's like, who is Cemanthe McKenzie? Could you give us a 30-second summary of who you are, what you do, and maybe if you could hint on that story of how and why you got into photography as well? I think that would be really fascinating.
Yeah, I will do. So I'll talk very fast because it's hard to fit all of that into 30 seconds. So I always wanted to be a photographer ever since I was a little girl. My 21st birthday, I asked for money so that I could buy my first camera, which I still have knocking about somewhere. Proper old manual film, the whole works. And so I always wanted to be a photographer, but life just, as always, life takes you in different directions. And I never quite got there. But I did end up running a digital agency for 10 years based out of London. Obviously, as part of that, I was doing photography. So I'd do someone's headshots and then teach them how to use LinkedIn and put the headshots on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of integrated, but I wasn't doing photography full time. I did some weddings on the side, some family shoots on the side, but nothing ever official or formal. And then in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, I had a baby, which is quite a life-changing experience if you're running a company, trying to look after another human and what is essentially also a baby, which is a company. And then at the end of 2019, one of my former favorite clients of all time died. Unexpectedly, not for him, but unexpectedly for me, because I thought he would outlive us all. And it was those kind of things that were the catalyst for change, really. So I woke up January the 1st at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I had made my peace with closing the company down, which I then duly did. I closed down the website, forgetting that the email address was attached to the website, of course. So then I had to scramble around to try and figure out how I was going to email everyone. But thankfully, I've always used a Gmail address, so it was quite easy. So I just emailed clients, passed them on to other agencies. The people that were on my team were pretty much wanting to do their own thing anyway, more full-time, so that was fine. And then I sort of officially went full-time into photography in February 2020. And then, as we all know, March 2020 happened. It was quite an interesting time to set up and go full-time into a photography business. Not just one photography business, 3 photography businesses. So, yeah, tricky.
You say tricky, and I want to say this because we'll probably get into the podcast. We've known each other for a while now, especially through that horrendous year. But to tell you this, Aidan, and everyone listening, from I believe November the 12th to December the 12th, you done, 258 photo shoots?
Yeah, that was just Christmas minis, actually. That was 258 Christmas mini sessions. And that wasn't counting the family shoots that I had and the business shoots as well. I was really knackered after that. I was knackered. I was exhausted for most of Christmas as well. It was entirely unexpected. At the start of November, I kind of told everybody, I'm not going to be at networking because I've got about maybe up to 100 shoots. I kind of thought I was overestimating to sound better. I thought maybe I'd have 50 to 80. But yeah, 258, I counted them at the end. It was quite intense. And exhausting. I don't recommend it. I won't be doing that again this year, and I will be raising my prices as well, just to ease that burden of doing so many.
I think this is something that so many magicians and performers complain about. It's like not a complaint. It's like I'm so grateful that we're so busy, but it's always so busy. But I'm not sure there are performers out there that manage to clock 250 odd gigs in that period of time. I'm not sure that's possible. And I'm just personally curious here. What did that what did a day in the life look like as you went through that time period?
Well, I can sum it up with one word, Aidan: editing. Editing and editing. And to top it all off, my toddler got like the monster cold of all time. Like, I've never seen him that ill. It wasn't even COVID. It was something that even the doctor said, this is worse than COVID. He got an absolute monster cold, which obviously coughing in my face and licking my tongue and stuff, he gave it to me. So I spent half of November dragging myself around 2 different things, trying to survive. And so I got quite behind in terms of editing, and so it was just like literally just catching up. I had everything nicely evenly spaced out, everything, do the shoots, edit in the afternoon, deliver overnight, do the shoot, edit in the afternoon, deliver overnight, and I had it all perfectly spaced. But man, when I got that cold, I was sleeping most of the time when I wasn't shooting, and so I had quite a lot of editing to do at the beginning of December, and it was very very stressful. I wouldn't say it was a happy time. I'm at my happiest when I'm editing and shooting. But I wasn't very happy at that stage. I was mostly just exhausted. So yeah, that's kind of what the day in the life looked like. It was just surviving through it. I was lucky in the way that they were all scheduled out. So there was only sort of one section a day. So for example, the mini shoots that I organized were there were about 5 to 10 a day. So it wasn't overwhelmed. Then I'd get home at about 4:30 and I'd sit and edit and finish at about 10, 11 at night. Try to get it right in camera so that when I'm editing, I don't have to do too much to it. So then I'd be up till 10 at night, and then I'd be uploading the pictures until, 11, and then leave them uploading overnight. So that was kind of the modus operandi. And then, the next day I'd have another chunk of shoots. So it was kind of nicely spaced out.
I mean, I'm just still in shock that this is just a thing. Like, kudos to you for actually rolling with that. Now, here's a big question. A lot of people, like myself included, try and fit to these kind of schedules. Again, I'm guilty of this. Literally, just the past few weeks have been a nightmare. But spacing things out and blocking the time, just like in a similar way to what you just mentioned. Did that ever go out of whack? Did you ever overrun at one point? Was there any chaos with schedules, or did the schedule just seem to fit?
Well, in my own mini sessions, so the ones I organized where I marketed them out, had about 60 of those. 60 of the 258 were those that I booked myself. So I hired a room, set up my backdrops, threw snow at people, and made them have fun for 20 minutes. I was very, very strict on schedule. I actually had my mum helping me for a few of those sessions. I think I had about 5 sessions, and I had my mum helping me for a few of those as my elf. So I made her dress like an elf. And I had her on working with me. So basically we set a timer for so the session, each person was 20 minutes long. That included you taking off your coat and settling your kids and, stuff like that, and getting out the door. So effectively shooting time was about 15 minutes. So we set an alarm as soon as someone walked in, 15 minutes. At the end of the 15 minutes, when the alarm went off, we started throwing snow at them and doing pictures with snow. That was kind of like a way of scheduling that. And also because people don't want to have photos with loads of snow in their hair. Because at the beginning, we threw snow at people first, and then they spent the rest of the shoot trying to pick snow out of their hair. And the Photoshop was a nightmare, trying to Photoshop out people, for the rest of the session, so it didn't look like they had dandruff. And I said to my mom, right, for the next few, we need to throw snow at people at the end so that they walk out with the snow in their hair. But we kept to a rigorous schedule. So, 5 minutes of playing with snow, blowing snow, throwing snow, all of that fun stuff, and then taking pictures, obviously, and then getting people out the door. So I kept a very strict schedule. Some of the mini sessions I did were through mums groups. So they'd have the group first, like sing and sign, things like that. So they'd have the session first, I'd do some class pictures, and then I had the backdrop ready to go. And then it would literally 1 minute per mum and baby and child. So if your child is not ready, go to the back of the queue and try again. So it was like the McDonald's of photography. It was just a production line of getting people through that door. And then one of the sessions I did, my mom will laugh at this, but because she was there to support me and help me, was at a Santa session at a kids' school for a kids' Christmas fair. And it was chaos. We did, I think there were 40 shoots in the space of like half an hour, probably even less, 15 minutes, I don't know. People didn't pitch. It was just carnage. Honestly, it was carnage. I don't recommend doing that at all, and I won't ever do it again. So that wasn't up to us to coordinate, because it was the school that were coordinating it, so it was carnage. But all of my own shoots, I did some at kids' nurseries as well. So basically, I would just set up, and then they would bring the kids, set them down, and we'd take pictures. And those were slightly more fluid and flexible, because there's a stranger in a room with a camera, a kid comes in, it's awkward for the kids, and they're like, what is going on? So with those ones, I just took as long as the kids needed. But with those ones, they're only about 3 kids a day, 3, 4, 5 kids a day. So I had the whole day. I started at like 8 in the morning. So I was there till 12, just working with the kids, easing them in, playing games with them. So it was run very differently depending on who organized it. If I organized it, it was like right on the minute, like, right, get out, please. Next people are coming in. We only had one incident where the hotel messed up. They booked a wedding in the room that I had actually hired. They allowed wedding guests to have breakfast in the room that I had actually paid for. That was fun. So that made us run really late, but we managed to catch up the time because we had one person who was a no-show, and then that gave us that breathing space just to catch up. And then the rest of the mini sessions for the whole afternoon ran smoothly. So yeah, where I could control it, I'm really like, if someone's paid for 20 minutes, I don't think it's fair to the next people who are coming in to be running late, because these people can't get their act together. So I kind of hustled people out. I'm from South Africa. I don't have British politeness about me. I'm just like, man, your time is up. Please get out. There's no soft kind of, saving face. I'm from South Africa. I'm very direct, and, it's kind of not fair to other people. I've given you your time. I've given you all of myself in that time. And now it's somebody else's turn to have all of us. And we only had like 10 minutes between each shoot to clean up the snow, reset, and then me have some water and breathe, and then get the next people in. So I was very picky about it being on time.
I mean, hey, if you've got like 10 shoots a day, you've got to be direct. Otherwise, like, chaos will unfold. And I think like we get a lot of event professionals and a lot of magicians obviously listening to our podcast because of the nature of it. And people literally, as of like today, like 114 countries around the world, including people in like Las Vegas, and still that number to like the Las Vegas performers is a bloody lot, because those people are only doing like 2 or 3 shows a day, and like you've outrun that, like doing so much work. And I think the question on anyone's mind here, anyone that's listening, because a magician would be happy if they had what you had in a month across like 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. They'd be over the moon with that. How the hell did you book that many shoots in a month?
It wasn't intentional. That's all I can say. It's so hard because it wasn't intentional. Like I said, I didn't think I would have that many. But I think a large part of it, besides the ones that I booked myself, so let's talk, because there were effectively like 4 different types of Christmas minis that I did. So the ones that I booked, where I hired a room, gave people 20 minutes a session, put 10 minutes in between for a break, an hour's lunch break, set up backdrops, threw snow at people, bought props. I spent loads of money at Poundland buying loads of props and things for babies to chew on, and stuff that they could take with them, or that could be cleaned afterwards. Those ones, to be honest with you, the marketing for those ones was purely based on price. I tried to do them last year, but obviously December was locked down, so I had to cancel the ones that I had booked. So for this year, there were a few photographers in my area who were no longer doing them, so that also factored in as well. I looked at what people who were doing them, so local studios and stuff, what they were charging, and I charged a shitload less. Are we allowed to say shit? I'm sorry. So I charged a load less. I charged a load less, and a couple of I basically created 3 packages. One was 50 quid, one was 25 quid, and one was free, and then you pay for the pictures you want afterwards. Big mistake, because a lot of the free ones either, we only had one no-show. And that's because she managed to message me afterwards, and that was fun. It was perfectly understandable. She was taken to hospital, so it was kind of outside her control. So that's good. We only had one no-show. We had some people who cancelled at the last minute, COVID related, but I hadn't taken a deposit, so I still had to pay for the room regardless. And because they hadn't paid anything for the session, I lost out a lot of money. So the lesson from that I will take for next year is raise the price, because the closest in price to me was £99 and I was charging 50. So that was essentially the marketing, was that I was too cheap. It was my first year doing it. I wanted to see how it went. I didn't know it was actually going to be that well received. So I will be increasing the price to next year. We'll be taking a non-refundable deposit portion of the price, because I still have to pay the room, even if people don't pitch. So that's, and then I posted about it on Facebook. I also donated a percentage of the profits to local charities. So I actually asked people when I promoted it, I said, which charities would you guys recommend I donate to? And so I went with that suggestion. So even though people I don't think they felt like they were part of donating to the charity, because I didn't go on about it too much. There was an element of thank you everyone for taking part. I've now paid money to these two charities. And I don't think I made a massive loss. I mean, it helped to have my mum as my assistant. And I had a few other people who helped me as well, no charge, just for the fun of the day, because it was fun dressing as an elf and throwing snow at people. You know, we had a good laugh and it was a good day. But I think I lost a little bit of money in doing it that way. So next year, increase the price, non-refundable deposits. And some people as well, the ones that got it for free, screenshotted their pictures, even though I had a watermark. And so they never bought their gallery, which is another lesson learned. And so this time the screenshot, the watermark is ugly, so they will not be able to just screenshot. It covers the whole picture. So those were the sessions that I booked. So the marketing was Facebook, announcing it in a group, donating part of the profits to charity as well, make people feel good, and charging too little. Basically, I don't know if that's a marketing strategy, but it worked. I had about 60 of those sessions. The other ones was relationship marketing. So the nursery that I did the photos at is our old childminder. And it was basically, she had a photographer friend who did them when my little boy was there. And I was respecting the space of the other photographer, but I thought, you know what, this year I'm just going to be bolshy. I think a little bit of marketing is about hustling people. And so I messaged her. And I said, listen, I'm doing Christmas minis. Do you want me to come and do them? And it turned out that her friend wasn't actually doing them. And so she had an open space to do them. So it's a little bit of hustle and kind of, I think it's respecting other people's space who do what you do, but also realizing that this is a business. My dad is actually a musician, and he always says to me that he can't be sick. Like, he's just recovered from 2 weeks of COVID, and he's straight. Yesterday was his first gig, and he's got cancer. And he had COVID for 2 weeks in hospital, and he did his first gig yesterday. Only just got out of hospital, respite care the day before. But he said, you know, if you don't go in, someone else will call the venue and say, do you need a musician? And so it is a little bit about, you have to be slightly aggressive in business, and you can be empathetic, but you also have to not care about somebody else's business. Somebody else's business is not your responsibility. And if they're not hanging on to a gig, you need to get in there. And it's hard because I'm very empathetic, and I try not to step on other people's toes, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I hustled in this case, and it worked out, because then I had a whole week of mini sessions with her. That was the ones that were more fluid and flexible, because the kids were terrified of this massive camera. At one session, I actually got her to hold the camera and do the pictures, and I managed to get 2 workable pictures out of that, but it eased the kids into it. So when I came back into the room, they were more okay with it. The school fair, I offered my backdrop as like, because they needed a Christmas scene. So I offered my Christmassy backdrop as part of helping a local school, basically. But then I said, well, you're going to use my backdrop. Why don't I just come and take pictures? Didn't really think it through, because obviously people can take pictures with their mobile phones. So why would they take a picture? Why would they buy pictures from me if they can take pictures with their mobile phones? And we had an incident with a dad who threatened to punch me because I asked him not to take pictures with his mobile phone. So it was that. Yeah, it was carnage. When I say it was carnage. Trying to stop people from taking pictures with their mobile phone, trying to take good pictures of the kids reacting with Santa. They had a Santa who was amazing. But the thing I got out of that is, don't work for free unless you are actually going to get something back from it. Sometimes you need to work for free to learn that you're not going to get something back from it. I think I made £14 worth of sales from that event, which does not cover the time that I spent editing and shooting and fighting with dads. And sometimes you do need to do something for free to learn. Things that you do for free don't always backfire. So sometimes you can do something for free and you get some really good stuff back from it. The couple in the top corner on my background, I did their wedding for free. It was the first like official, I don't know these people kind of wedding. And from that, I've got amazing pictures and, you know, they've referred me out and stuff like that. So sometimes doing something for free can work. But always make sure that you control the parameters. I think I didn't control the parameters of that school fair. What I would have done if I'd realized what was going to happen is put Santa and my backdrop in a separate room, get people to pay in advance, like 10 quid or whatever, and then let them come in on their own, take the pictures, leave mobile phones at the door, and then send them the pictures afterwards, the whole gallery, whatever, you know, so that kind of thing. So it was definitely a learning experience. The other thing I got out of it was an amazing Santa. The guy who did Santa, Gary, was amazing. And he was so good with the kids. So now I can use him this year in my own Christmas minis. And then what was the other one? I think that was it, basically. So it was just, you know, it was a mix of relationships. The sing and sign clubs. I offered again to do pictures of the classes for free in exchange for me to then do backdrop pictures afterwards. And then the mums buy the pictures that they want. So even though it was a month of work, for a month of work, I made $2,500 in picture sales, which I don't normally share like publicly, but that's enough money to pay for my bills 2 months. So that covers us for winter. That covered us for November and December to pay rent and stuff like that. So I didn't make as much as I could, but I wasn't charging very much for pictures, which again, I will do now this year, prints and downloads. So yeah, that's it. So relationships, Facebook, bit of hustle, bit of massive mistake. But yeah, it's, I had the time of my life. I really did, even though I was very sick at one point, obviously, and very stressed. We really enjoyed it. I mean, the mini sessions, the last family, like I was on the 12th of December when I did my last day. It was dark. The room that I hired in the place messed me around. I pitched up. There were chairs all over the place, food all over the carpet. So I had arrived early, thank God, but I had to then clean the whole room, and I was furious, and move chairs and tables. So by the time the first family got there, which was my own family, thank God, I was absolutely sweating. But I got my husband and my son to come for the first session, thank God, because that gave me time just to, you know, stop my toddler from eating all the food that was on the floor and stuff. But, you know, it eased me in. But I was done, and I was totally done. That day I was like, I am not in the mood for this at all. And I had really lovely families, and the last family of the day ended all of it on a massive high because they threw themselves in fully to the session. They threw snow at each other, they threw snow at me. Obviously at that stage I didn't need to keep the snow, so there was snow everywhere, fake snow. And you know, it just ended it on a high. And then it felt like the whole thing had been worthwhile, even though it was exhausting, and I don't recommend it.
Wow, where do one pick that, Aidan? Like, there's so many like learning curves
it's a long
in there.
answer to a short question.
And I think you've like touched on something which myself and Aidan had two key points, and I know Aidan wants to come on to something in a second. And really talking like what it's like being at events from your angle as a photographer. Like there was two angles. Like I was really interested in your business, and Aidan was really interested in the events. And like with that answer, it's like you read our minds here. You're the mind reader in our minds. You was like, well, here's this answer for Ashley, and here's the answer for what it's like at events for Aidan. Like you tackled them both. I think there's a lot of lessons there. You did say a word that we hate, hustle. We hate that word, but I think what it shows is you've been like strategic, you've been optimistic, you've been like actually going out there. You've been proactive, and it is really taking advantage of those opportunities which you've seen. And like a lot of people in our industry, they wonder how to get work, and they're never really too sure. So the easiest thing is to look at how other people are getting work, but then again, not many people in our industry know about kind of that side, so it is just tends to rely on just social media and websites, and as a byproduct so many entertainers and magicians get stuck going, wow, where do I start? I'm not sure how to make it. And I think there's so much to take from your answer. Like of what you've said, and you've mentioned a key thing which we say over and over and over and over and over all the time: building relationships, building that network, connecting with your circle. And you've mentioned it here from your angle, that kind of like relationship marketing, as you worded it, actually building those relationships, being a people person, being proactive, looking for opportunities, and just connecting with people on that more personal level. Is this something which you find works well then? Yeah.
It's understanding what other people need. So with the sing and sign classes, where mums and babies come and learn sign language, there was the lady who did the sing and sign classes for my little boy, and she didn't need me to come and do pictures, but she referred me because I kept in contact. That's the other thing as well, is follow up and keeping in contact with people is the most. And I fall down at this. I found an application for wedding photography in my inbox last night that had been sent on the 2nd of January, and because my husband and my toddler had COVID in the first 2 weeks of January, I dropped the ball. And so I messaged her last night hyper apologetically, and she's already found another photographer. So that was very annoying, and I was very upset with myself. So sometimes I do drop the ball, but follow up is so important. And because I kept in touch with her, she then referred me to a friend of hers who's running the franchise in a different part of Kent. And Carrie and I just got on really well. And what does Carrie need? She needs pictures to post on social media. And so I said, let me come and take pictures of the class, no charge. And so sometimes doing something is, no charge is of benefit. I come and take the pictures for her. She can use them as she wishes on social media, wherever she wants, on website, printing, whatever, for her marketing. And then I get an opportunity to set up a backdrop at the end of class, take pictures of people who are interested, and then they purchase the pictures that they want. And that has actually spiraled into not just doing the classes, but now I do her summer parties and her Christmas minis. And we did Halloween minis this year as well. So, last year and the year before, it was just sort of doing some of the classes when she was allowed to be open. But now we're actively planning. So we've actually planned, I've bought 2 backdrops for Easter. So now we're planning Easter sessions. We planned her summer party. We did Halloween last year. We're doing Christmas again this year. So, it's definitely about building relationships and understanding if you are offering something to someone, don't offer what you think they should have. I didn't say to her, can I come and set up a backdrop in your class to take pictures? Because, that's like dollar bills. It was more about what does she actually need? She needs pictures for her social media. I'll come and do pictures for your social media that you can use as you like, in exchange for me then being able to upsell my photography. And I have had birthday parties and stuff booked from that as well, from meeting the mums. They love their pictures with the backdrop, and so then they book me for their kids' birthday parties because they're all like babies and tiny, sort of first birthdays and stuff. So, and from there you just build, you build the relationship as well.
I think you said something there that's really, really prominent, and I want to bring it back up to everyone's attention here in terms of this relationship building, and it is this belief of, like Keith Ferrazzi calls it, leading with generosity, actually going forwards into a relationship, finding out not what can I get out of this person, what can I get out of this opportunity, but what can I give to this person, what can I give to this opportunity, what opportunity can I create? So it's really nice to actually hear that from your perspective, that's been something great that as a result, like as an immediate result, turned into something much bigger at the outset, which is, I wanted to flag that up because of how important that is. And if we go with that mentality into every relationship that we build, there is no reason on earth that we can't have these spiraling successes into lots of different avenues, if you like, per relationship.
Yeah.
It's just really monumental.
I love that. Leading with generosity. I think I'm going to write that on a big thing and lead with generosity. I really like that. It's not something I'd ever quantified, but that is definitely always my perspective is always, how can I make this a win-win for both of us? And sometimes it is at my own expense. So, sometimes I give too much and then I end up losing out and the other person gains like shitloads. But there's always something to learn from that as well. There's always something to learn from all of those kind of situations. And it's kind of like, and it's not just doing a charity. So, Sing and Sign is a profit-making business. It's not a charity. I don't always do free stuff for charities. I'm quite happy if somebody comes along and says, I've given gift vouchers for charity events and, for family shoots and stuff like that. And, it's only my time that is going to get taken up. So it doesn't always have to be about charity. Sometimes you can approach another business and say, this is what I do. How can we work together to create something for your customers that is going to bring value to your business? That kind of stuff. And I think what we do, whether magicians or photographers, the only thing it really takes us, besides photography, obviously very expensive equipment, but once you've got it, you've got it. And I think the only thing it takes us is our time, but the rewards that you can get sometimes from giving your time can far outweigh the time that you spent, if that makes sense. And then sometimes it's worth just giving your time, because you just don't know what's, when I ran my digital agency out of London, I used to do lots of speaking events. And I remember my mom saying to me the one day, are you sure you should be doing these? Because they're costing you money, because I have to pay for the tube. And, I lived in London, but I had to pay for the tube to get to these events. And it was 2 hours at a time, plus an hour's travel either side. And she was like, are you sure you should still be doing stuff for free? And so I sat down and I did a spreadsheet, and I looked at all the clients I had and where they all came from, which is another really good thing to do as well, is to sit down with the clients that you have. Where did they come from? And 50% of my income could be traced back to these seminars, sometimes 2 or 3 times. So like someone would come to the seminar and then say to me, I run a group for people who do IT, and we have our next event. Would you come and speak at that? I did speaking events at the Institute of Directors, and that was from somebody who'd come to one of my free seminars who said, can you come and talk at the Institute of Directors? I said, yeah, of course, an hour, why not? Go and do that. That wasn't paid. They gave me a bottle of wine at the end, which is a shame because I don't drink. But they gave me a bottle of wine at the end. It wasn't paid. But then a few people that were attending messaged me and said, can you help me with my LinkedIn profile? And then that's where the money came in, because then I charged for the training session or the mentoring session. And sometimes it was 2 or 3, 4 things down the line that I could still trace it back to doing the free seminars. And directly 50% of my income was from the free seminars, but it was ongoing. And so eventually it just built up, and it was well worth doing them, because I could trace back a significant portion of income, back to those seminars. And sometimes it was like 70% of my income had come from those, people. So tracing where people are coming from is definitely key as well.
Well, super important. If it just shows you can double down on the right areas, and you shouldn't theoretically have an issue going forwards. But we've spoken a lot about the events that you've run yourself and stuff, and we've hinted on things like weddings and stuff, and that's a market that all 3 of us operate in. And I know that an absolute ton of our audience also do weddings, so I'd love to pick your brains for a little while on what it's actually like as a wedding photographer. Like, what does it? We'll start on the day, actually, and then, because I want to pick around it and look at the inquiry process and stuff. But on the day, on a scale of like 1 to 10, like how stressy is it for you?
10 being the most stressed and 1 being no stress?
Yeah.
One for me, no stress, because I love it so much. It's what I was born to do. It's what I've always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a wedding photographer. I always wanted to be a photojournalist as well, but that's another story. But I love weddings. I have already built that relationship with the couple, because I've probably known them for about 2 years, 1 year, because people tend to book photography quite far in advance. And I'm a very emotionally invested photographer. So I emotionally invest in my couples. Like last night, one of my couples sent me, they're a gay couple, and one of them sent me a picture of her in her suit and was asking my opinion on which bow tie. And I tell you, I cried when I got the picture. I said, oh my God, you look amazing. And I cried because I was like, oh my God, you look amazing. That kind of thing. I'm getting tearful just thinking about it, because I'm emotionally invested in my couple. So the wedding day for me, there's no stress at all. I do the whole day like I'm on a high. Seriously, I float through the day. I love it so much. I love every second of it. I love giving the bride bottles of water and telling her to drink water. I love, babysitting. Like at one of the weddings I did last year, I had to babysit someone's toddler because the maid of honor was her mum, and she was getting her hair and makeup done. The toddler wanted to go and see its dad, and so I was carrying kids around. And I love the whole day. I don't feel any stress at all. It's really weird, and, I just love it. I just live in it. That's very strange because I never really thought about it and never really thought, how stressed am I at weddings. I just don't stress at all. I love every second of it, which I know is not always the case for many photographers. But, it's so strange because I've always had an eye for photography, but I did a course in lockdown, just a very basic course. Like it literally went through the basics, but something just to check that I did, know what I was doing and also to fill a few technical gaps. But there was something about the course that unlocked something in me and gave me so much confidence in my work. I think because it helped me understand the technical aspects of my camera, because I'm not really good with the technical stuff. I'm good with the eye, I can take a really good picture with any camera, but my camera is, slightly more fancy and it has technical things that I was like, I can't make head or tails of this. And that course unlocked those things. And since then I've just flown. And so, I get to a wedding and I know my equipment, and I don't know it 100%. I would say I probably know it about 70%, but that's enough. That's enough to, to capture moments. And I just love it. What a privilege it is. Even as a magician, mind reader, whatever, when you're at someone's wedding, what a privilege it is to be invited to someone's pinnacle of their love story. Like, it's a shame we forget about marriages because there's so much emphasis placed on weddings, but there really is. The wedding is the pinnacle of someone's love story. It's the start of the story, essentially, the love story that then follows with kids and, marriage is hard work. But the wedding it's like if you put a pin into a blanket and pulled it up, the point of the blanket that's sticking up closer to the pin, that's the wedding. The rest of the blanket is the marriage and all the shit that comes with that. But it's what a privilege. And I feel that so much when I'm there. I feel emotionally part of the day. I feel like a friend of the couple. And I'm invested, I feel like a guest who's just so happy to see my couple married. It's just like, yes, there's no stress. I love it. I love it too much because by the end of the day, I feel bereft and I go through a grieving process. I get home, I feel really glum because I have to eat lots of chocolate because I feel really sad that I'm not going to see them again. Until they have babies, and then hopefully the family photography will kick in. I miss them. And if they've not friended me on Facebook, I feel really sad because I want to see what happens with their story.
This is something that you mentioned the other day. We were sat down Wednesday morning over breakfast, and you were saying how you just go the extra way with your weddings, like to Phil Aidan, and Cemanthe was saying like, how she makes sure like the bride is taking rest, like she said, giving them bottles of water. You gave the example of where you had to literally babysit a kid because he was just running around. You wanted to show him to his dad, and you also said you carry like in your bag, like you carry chargers, like a variety of chargers for guests if they need them for their phone, chocolate in case anyone wants it, your water, you've got a sewing kit in case anyone's suit or dress needs sewing up. Like, when I heard that, loads I was like, wow.
Tampons, pads, just, all the things that people could need through the day. I always have a tin of spaghetti with me as well, just in case I get hungry. But, if somebody else needs it or whatever, you just eat it straight out the tin. But yeah, chocolates mostly for me. But I have had a situation where the bride was feeling a bit faint. And so I gave her a couple of the chocolates just to boost up her sugar levels. And it's a really small bag. I mean, it's not any bigger than a handbag, but you can fit a lot in. And I think that my role, I'm just the photographer. This is what I think. But generally, from the industry perspective, I'm just the photographer and I'm a supplier and that's it. But in my head, because I get so emotionally invested in my couples, I'm also their friend, even if it's just the friend for the day. And I always say to people, I'm your honorary bridesmaid because I will carry all the things that you might need. And sometimes brides are on it. They have a bridesmaid who carries a sewing kit and they have all their bridesmaids with the little bits and bobs that they're going to need. But it's just basically being prepared for any eventuality and just being there to fill the gaps, not just with pictures and memories, but to fill the gaps of what can be a very stressful day for a couple. And this is essentially possibly their first wedding and they have no idea how it's going to be. It's my role as someone who's been now to multiple weddings, plus having had 2 of my own, practice makes perfect, right? Is to be there to fill the gaps of the things that they don't know are going to happen and to be prepared for any eventuality. And it makes me feel like a superhero. I'm not going to lie. Like, when the bride's having a dizzy spell, no one's got anything. Here's a chocolate. Like, chocolate's in my bag. Have a chocolate. And, oh, by the way, your buttons come undone. Here's a sewing kit. It's just just being prepared, basically, for any eventuality for them on their behalf. Because I know what a wedding is going to do, but they don't. So, you have to fill the gaps for people.
And I think what's important, if we dig deeper than just the being prepared, like I think being prepared for everything is something that we should all be doing anyway at these events, 100%, and actually using our experience and our knowledge and our even just our skill set to be able to cover for those things. But I think the one step deeper than that is the real key here. And we can hear it in the way you're talking and your tone of voice, and actually what you're saying is like the level of passion that you have for these events is what indicates like how prepared are you going to be. Because I'll be honest, I'll put my hands up and say that especially in the past, for a lot of the weddings that I did, I didn't have that level of passion because I felt it was just a gig. It was just it was almost like a bit of a job for me. But since sort of changing the way I run things and run my business, I'm sure that there's many others out there like that. But in changing that to have more passion for the actual people that are inquiring, and you said it right. It's like it's an honor to actually be there helping them. It's such a privilege to be there for people. But it's that passion for the people and for the events that they just spoke out to me there. And I think that's the real key. Like, we can be prepared as much as possible, but if we're not actually passionate about the events that we're doing, I think it's going to be quite hard for us to actually show up. And even on bad days, because I'm sure you've had it before, that you've had a day that you're feeling maybe a little under the weather for whatever reason, and you've still had a wedding to shoot. Like, it's passion.
You have to find.
That.
I think, I've had situations where I've stood in for other photographers, so they have no relationship with the couple at all, and that's been really hard because then it's cold. I'm going in. The first time I'm meeting these people is when she's in her knickers getting ready for her wedding, and it's hard to establish that relationship. But it's just finding. Sometimes you have to find the empathy when you're there. Sometimes the build up, like you say, you might be feeling under the weather or tired, and on the way to the weddings, if I'm driving there on the day, then I always try and stay the night before. But if I'm driving on the day, try and put on some good music, try and really build the buzz, eat lots of chocolate, get the energy up, because another role as an entertainer or a supplier is to keep up the energy of the room, because it's quite exhausting. Most brides wake up 3-4 a.m. They only start getting their hair and makeup done at like 8-9. They're exhausted, they're knackered. It's time for a rest already, and now they've had a whole full day already before things have even started. And yes, the energy will come later on, but sort of the getting ready part and stuff like that, they need that buzz. They need you to be on your best, at your best. And so it's kind of, how do you psych yourself up? And how I psych myself up is I feed off of the love of the day and the energy, and remind myself that it's a privilege that I'm here. Even if I have stood in for another photographer, it's still a privilege that I'm here. I'm providing them with the one thing that is going to last from the whole day. Sometimes it even outlasts the marriage. My first marriage, the photos outlasted the marriage. So photography is so important, and it's the entertainer's job to create memories as well that us photographers can then take pictures of. It's very hard to get pictures a lot of the time of guests laughing and genuine, laughter and stuff like that. But if an entertainer is really good, then they will create that moment that then makes our job a lot easier as well. So it's really important for the person who's there to create the energy in the room, to give a shit about what they do. Otherwise, it's very hard. It's very hard to showcase magic when there is no magic. And by magic, I don't mean card tricks. I mean, emotion and a sense of something in the room. So I think every job at a wedding is very important. Obviously, as a photographer, I'm there the whole day. I'm one of the few suppliers that's actually right there from beginning to pretty much almost the end, besides the bride and groom, and not even all the guests are there as long as I am. But it's important for everyone to work together. It's nice if it's kind of like, where do you want me to stand? That kind of thing to the photographer, to have an entertainer go, where's the best place for me to stand for you to get the best pictures? Because it can only serve you in the end as well, because then you get some really good pictures to use in your marketing if the photographer decides to give you some. So it's just about all working together to create magic in the day.
I think that answers like all future questions for me in terms of working together. I was like, but literally, no, that's really important, because my next step was like, how can we start working together better? Because again, like, I think out of all of the supplier combinations that there are for weddings and things, I think in particular photographers and entertainers, that it goes hand in hand. Like, if we can work together in a really, like, it makes the wedding better, it makes both of our jobs better, it makes the whole situation, everything gets better. So
well, I had a magician at a wedding. Oh, sorry. I had a magician at a wedding who actually came over to me. He tapped me on the shoulder because I was like taking pictures of something else, kids playing or something. He tapped me on the shoulder. He said, listen, mate, I'm just about to do something totally amazing at this table. You have to come over and take pictures. I so appreciated that, because he did something. Even I was like, what? You know, and my brother-in-law is a magician. I did a magic course when I was a kid. You know, I was fascinated by magic. I always wanted to be part of the magic circle when I was a kid and stuff. I loved magic. And even I was just like, what? Like, how did he do that? Like, I know how he does these things. Even my husband didn't know. And he knows how his brother does all these tricks. And he was like, I don't know how he did that when I told him about it. So I really appreciated just the tap on the shoulder. He's like, mate, I'm just about to do something outstanding at this table. Come and take pictures of it. And I was like, that, you know, that's key to creating the magic. No pun intended, but, you know, creating the magic of the photos, because the photos are great. People like throwing their heads back laughing, and, you know, and then the bride appreciates those pictures, and then I look good because I look like I got a really magic moment. Sorry, that was no pun intended. I was popping out now, but, you know, it's just those little things of working together. Like, you know, go and tell the photographer if you're about to do something totally amazing that you know is going to make the guests happy. Go find the photographer, tell them, I'm just about to do something at this table, come and take pictures. You know, but build a relationship when you come in, because you can't just do that if you haven't talked to the photographer, because they'll go, what? Don't tell me how to do my job. But if you've built a relationship, you know, from the start, go say hi, you know, I'm the magician today, or I'm the entertainer, really nice to meet you. Let's swap business cards, let's keep in touch. And I'll come and let you know when I'm going to do something really cool, so you can come and take really cool pictures and make the bride happy. You know, that kind of thing. Just working together, really would be nice for that kind of stuff.
So have you, like, you've mentioned it before, like, and obviously you do a ton of photography and a ton of events and tons of weddings. Like you said, you're pretty much filled up for next year already. Like, have you worked with a lot of magicians at weddings then? Have you been at weddings where there's been a lot of magicians in general?
I haven't actually. I mean, my brother-in-law did some magic at my own wedding. I don't know if that counts, but he said he'd do some close-up magic for us. But no, I haven't actually. I think what's happened, because I only went full-time in January 2020, which is obviously just before, in February 2020, just before the pandemic. I didn't shoot many weddings that year, obvious reasons. A lot of them moved to this year. And last year as well. So a lot of people moved their weddings, but I think people were on a budget, you know, because a lot of people had moved their weddings so much, and or were booking their wedding but doing it with less capacity, less budget. Yeah, I think it's been a very different time. I hope that in the future I do work with more, because I get to enjoy it as well. I love magic, love it. I wouldn't have studied it when I was a kid if I didn't, you know, kind of thing. And I was very excited when I heard that my brother-in-law was a magician, because it's very exciting, and he's trying to teach my toddler, which is totally adorable. My toddler just holds a pack of cards and he throws them in the air, and then he goes, where's it gone? And we go, wow, where's it gone? Like, wow, you know, and then he goes like, stands with his hands like that, and we have to clap for him.
Don't say that on the podcast. But, you know, that's 30 minutes of Aidan's show there. Don't let that slip.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, it's just I would love, I think weddings are getting more back to normal now, where people are now going, okay, I have a bit of a budget. I mean, a lot of the weddings I've had booked for this year have booked this year, you know. So that people are now booking weddings for this year and now starting to inquire about weddings next year. So I think people will have a better budget going forward. And, you know, I love working with magicians. I've done a couple of weddings with magicians, but I love it, or entertainers, because I get to enjoy the show as well. And I really do. Sometimes I have to think, oh my God, I'm supposed to take pictures. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this a lot. And then I'm like, oh, I got to take pictures. You know, so I have to remind myself. But yeah, it would be lovely to work with more people. And I think people's budgets are getting a bit more fluid now. So they're able to, you know, kind of come back to doing that kind of stuff as well. Having the extra stuff of weddings that are important to the day, but not necessarily, you know, the kind of be all and end all to the wedding.
So a final question, which really comes to me then, is this: what can us as entertainers and magicians do to just be more valuable for the day, to just do a better job and be more useful to the married couple and the event overall? What, in your opinion, with your background and what you've seen and running events and being at events from your angle, what can we in our industry to just do to be more valuable and more useful?
Well, I think a lot of the time these days, because couples live together beforehand and they work in different places, they bring, sometimes they have people in common, but a lot of the time, you'll see families kind of sitting aside because no one's really introduced them around. I think talking to couples about being the icebreaker of their day. So, and again, no pun intended, but creating the magic, saying to them, with the icebreaker of the day, we create the moments that your photographer will get amazing pictures of, that you'll look back on and you'll laugh because you didn't realize Auntie Sally had such a big mouth when she laughs, that kind of thing. So it's kind of talking about the moments that you'll create, the way that you bond people together, bring people together. It really is the icebreaker of the day, isn't it? Because you'll, multiple people who've just been sat at a table who don't know each other, which always happens now at weddings, regardless of the fact that couples have known each other and live together. There will always be those tables where people don't know each other. It's the icebreaker of the day. You're the person who creates those moments that then make the pictures amazing, because it's not just the doing of the magic that creates that moment where people are laughing. It's after you leave the table. That's when I get some of the nicest pictures, because now those people are all going, holy shit, how did he do that? How did he know my PIN number? And then, you're all laughing and chatting. And then that's when I get really good pictures, because now everybody's friends at that table. So you create friends out of strangers. I think that's like a tagline, you make friends out of strangers. You create moments that the photographer can take great pictures of, and you pull people together. You're the icebreaker of the day. And it's a really important role, and I wish more people would get entertainers. They kind of think guests can look after themselves, but really they don't. I see people sitting so separately, families segmented, separate from each other, because the bride and groom know each other. So they're like, oh, everybody knows everybody, but actually they don't. And it's a really good way to bring guests together, make better photos, and create friends out of strangers.
I love that. And I think I'm going to be listening to the replay of this and stealing what you just said word for word and using that in my promo copy. But
hey, 20 quid.
Fantastic. Well, here's the thing, we've had a lot of different conversations we've taken this conversation in a lot of different avenues, and I'm really grateful that you've actually taken the time to come and have a chat with us. I know it's not your everyday situation where you get to talk to two mind readers on a podcast all about weddings and photography. It's like a very weird situation, but we've got a lot of listeners at this point. We've got people all across the world, and I'd love to ask the question: if there's one thing or one message or one thing that you'd like to share with all of those people, what would that one thing be?
Oh, take a lot of chocolate to a wedding.
Ladies and gents, it's great to have you here. More of that story.
No, build relationships, I think. I really love what you said earlier, lead with generosity. I think that is how I live my life, and it permeates into my business. And I really love that. If that's the quote of the day, lead with generosity, I really love that. Lead with generosity and build relationships with people, genuine relationships, not just to get something from them, but to give something to them that's going to benefit them and you in the end as well. Create win-win situations.
There we go. Fantastic. What a wonderful, beautiful way to end. It's something that resonates with us so much and something we preach. And I was actually trying to find Keith's book during the podcast interview, but it's too high up, so I couldn't bring it down. But no, just finally, for all those people that, if they have a wedding and they're doing it as a magician, and the bride and groom, the married couple, haven't booked a photographer yet, one, where can people find you about that? And where can people find you in general? That was a hint to all you magicians out there. If your marriage couples don't have a photographer yet, just scroll down and click the link below. But ultimately, where can people find you if they're curious about your stuff, Cemanthe?
Well, Facebook, Instagram, and my website is just lemonfeatherphotography.com, and on Instagram and thinking the same as lemon feather photography. And yeah, I'm very happy to network and, you know, have people message me and follow back and chat about weddings and stuff. So.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Cemanthe, thank you so much for joining us on the TSM podcast. I've taken a lot away from it, that's for sure. I know Ashley has as well. So thank you for spending the time. And I hope to see you soon. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.